I'm Edward October. The sound you hear is a gray, windy afternoon at a lonely cafe in France. This is the start of Octoberpod. A Haunting in Normandy, a true paranormal encounter submitted by the woman who lived it, Emma, co-host of Spine Chillers and Serial Killers, and a British expat living in France. Thank you for joining us today, Emma.
Thank you very much for having me.
I understand you and your family have been experiencing a haunting. Tell us about it, won't you?
As most of you know, I have been in the past quite fascinated by all things spooky. I was a horror film buff, loved a good book about true hauntings, and for many years I was a goth. And during that time I learned something. Kids are creepy. Especially little girls. Although granted, Damien from The Omen wasn't exactly a ray of sunshine. But generally speaking, if there's a little girl in a horror film, you know at some point she's going to be climbing up walls or projectile vomiting over priests. That's just the way it is.
I can vouch for that. That does seem to go on. That really does seem to happen.
Bearing this in mind, I can't deny that when I found out I was pregnant with my eldest, somewhere in the back of my mind I had that uneasy thought. What if she turns out to be creepy?
Understandable. I mean, what parent hasn't?
I know, right? Of course, the second she was born, that thought vanished entirely, and I was completely wrapped up in how frigging adorable and perfect she was. She was quite possibly the most beautiful baby in the world ever. Okay, I might have been a bit biased, but you get the idea. Not a creepy bone in her chubby little body. That is, until now. She's now coming up to 4 years old. She's extremely bright and extraordinarily eloquent for her age. This means that sometimes she comes out with things you wouldn't expect a child her age to say. Up until now, when she has said something surprisingly clever, I must admit I do tend to be incredibly proud and secretly smug. Ha! My child is a genius. What good parents we must be. But recently, I have kind of been wishing she wasn't quite so eloquent, as some of the random clever things she's been saying are truly terrifying. I mean, like, stomach churning. We're going to need an exorcist terrifying. It started maybe a month or two ago. She started talking about Leo, her invisible friend. Wonderful, I thought to myself. Imaginary friends are creepy AF. And this is always how it starts in the films.
Captain Howdy from The Exorcist comes to mind. And Jody from the Amityville Horror. Tony from The Shining. Well, the list goes on and on.
Now, I knew she had a friend at school called Leo, so I just put it down to an overactive imagination. Even when she would tell me that Leo had climbed into bed with me and was hiding under the duvet by my feet, I didn't let it get to me. It's just harmless play, I would say to myself, and then I would give myself a mental pat on the back for being so sensible and grown up about it. There was a time I would have freaked out about invisible little boys crawling into bed with me, but not now. No, now I was a fearless mum. Go me! After a few weeks, a new friend appeared to my daughter. Her name was Sarah. Of course, we couldn't see her. Just like that cheeky little bed-stealing scamp Leo. So now there were two. Fabulous. But just like she had an actual real friend called Leo, she also knows a Sarah, her dance teacher. So again, we just put it down to her imagination. All was well in the world with Leo and Sarah. They would chase around the house, or have imaginary water balloon fights, and hardly do anything creepy like perch on windowsills during the night to watch us sleep.
Ugh, that is unsettling. That would bother me.
Then, back in October, we had my husband's parents over for dinner. We were enjoying a nice family dinner when out of nowhere my daughter starts talking about her friends, except now there are 3. Now there is a Clément. She does not know a Clément. There is no one by that name at her school. I checked. He's not a character from one of her books, nor from any of the cartoons she watches. I have no explanation for Clément. And she's not sure who he is either, really. Leo and Sarah are brother and sister, but Clément is just naughty. That's all we know about him. I would have much preferred him to be funny or silly, but no. All he is naughty. Great. And then she just blurts out, "And you know Leo is dead. Sarah killed him. Dead like your granddad, Mummy." My mother-in-law and I just stared at each other, not saying a word, but safe to say we knew what we were both thinking. What the actual fuck? My lovely husband senses my absolute horror at what my beautiful angel has just announced at the dinner table and tries to come to the rescue. But it's just pretend, darling, isn't it? He's okay, really. He's not really dead, he says. No, Daddy, he's really dead. Sarah killed him, she merrily replies in between two mouthfuls of chips. I felt a bit sick at this point, and was not looking forward to sharing my bedroom with my daughter and her new mates at bedtime. Yes, my nearly 4-year-old still sleeps in our room. Long story for another time.
Yes, I totally understand. I had a cousin who, up through his 30s, well, actually, that's a completely different situation.
Here's another creepy bit. As we were getting ready for bed, she starts talking about them again, this time adding that we have an angry lady called Violet living in our attic space. Violet is always cross and has purple lips. A fun fact about our attic space is it's not actually closed off by a wall. It just has a see-through banister to stop anything falling out, so I can see everything in our attic that overlooks my bed. I now know I'm never sleeping again. Awesome. So I said, "Sweetheart, can we not talk about them now? They're only pretend, they're not real." What she said next and how she said it will probably haunt me forevermore. Her face dropped into a scowl. She came very close to my face, squinted her eyes and said, "They are real." Then started laughing and added, "They're shouting, Mummy. They're always shouting."
Pants change in aisle 3.
As my daughter grew up, we heard less and less about her invisible friends, but I must admit not a night goes by that I don't look up in the attic space and imagine an angry Violet staring back at me. My daughter never really spoke of her dead playmates again, and we were blessed with another little girl a year after. This brings the story to the present day. My children are 7 and 4. A few weeks ago I heard them chanting in the playroom. I thought it was odd, so I went to check on them. They'd made a circle of toys, and in the centre of the circle was their Woody doll, you know, from Toy Story.
Is that the one with Herbert Marshall in it? Or is it the one with Van Heflin and Ida Lupino?
I asked them what they're up to. My youngest answered, "Oh, we're just trying to summon the Woody demon. I heard the doll speak by himself a few days ago, and now I want him to do it again." So it appears we have a haunted Woody doll that speaks by himself, and my daughters were trying to summon whatever demon inhabits him. I repeat, my kids are 7 and 4. They shouldn't know what a demon is, let alone how to summon one, and how they knew what to chant. Pure gibberish to me, but now I'm scared it was Latin or some demonic shit. It's absolutely beyond me. My eldest is a sleepwalker. No offence to sleepwalkers, but it's creepy and personally freaks me out. But either way, she's our child and it's kind of part of the deal that we look after her. And so, our bedroom door is always open, just in case she goes wandering at night. The layout to our house is pretty basic. One big bedroom on one side, a long hallway and another bedroom on the other side. So if we leave both doors open, they can see us and we can see them. And most of all, hear them if they get up during the night. This is exactly what my eldest did one evening last week. My husband got up and checked on her to make sure she wasn't sleepwalking. She wasn't, she just needed the loo. When she came out, she looked at him and said, "You know at night there's a black and white person that paces in front of your bedroom door, right? And also, there's a brown-haired lady that sits in the bath all night." My husband just told her she'd probably dreamt it, but she insisted she sees them most nights. She wasn't frightened, just pointing it out to us in case we weren't aware. Now, my lovely husband got pretty freaked out by this and knew I'd hate it, so didn't tell me for a few days. But then he thought he'd share that information with me at bedtime, just before he turned over and went to sleep.
Cheers, mate.
Since being aware of all this, I've heard loud banging in my attic that I cannot explain. I've even filmed it. It's on my phone. If you'd like to have a look, I promise you it's not bollocks, it's all 100% true.
I absolutely would like to see it. Ladies and gentlemen, what we're about to show you is real, not a work of fiction, not a hoax. If you are easily upset by disturbing content, or if you are a spiritually sensitive person, you may want to fast forward a bit. We'll play the video following this countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Roll film.
I don't like it. What is that? Oh, but what's going on? What's happening? Look, it's stopped. Oh, I don't like it. At first I thought it was a bird, but no way that was a bird. Also, fun fact, the cat starts purring right when the loud bangs happen.
You know, it's a common misconception that cats purr only when they're happy. They purr to regulate their emotions.
Exactly. So hurt kitties purr and scared kitties purr.
And kitties who've seen a ghost also purr.
Yes, it's something to do with the frequency of the purr having soothing or healing or restorative properties. I don't know. But there it is. Make of it what you will.
Thank you for sharing your experience with us, Emma. Be sure to check back with Octoberpod if the paranormal activity becomes more severe. If you'd like to hear more from Emma, you can find her and her friends on Spine Chillers and Serial Killers, wherever you get podcasts. Until then,
And on YouTube.
Super. And so, until then,
And TikTok.
Until next time, I'm your humble narrator and host, Mr. Edward October. Stay spooky, mes amis.
The pronunciation is mes amis.
Mes
amis.
Mes amis?
That quick. Mes amis. Mes amis.
Mes amis. Mes amis. Yeah, what she said.
There you go.
April Fools.
Is it possible to truly be scared to death? To death? to death.
April Fools.
Deadly amounts of adrenaline. 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 Adrenaline.
April Fools.
Dose can kill. Can kill.
Rogue Transmissions. April Fools. Stories about fear, hoaxes, insanity, existential dread, and death. Featuring a selection of the finest indie podcasts, including Octoberpod, Brew Crime, Spine Chillers and Serial Killers, Mission Spooky, Freaky AF, and Reverie True Crime, coming to the podcast you're listening to right now on Thursday, March 30th, 2023. Is it possible to be scared to death?
Welcome to Brew Crime, a true crime and beer podcast.
This is a podcast where we pick a theme, cover a few cases, and pair them with craft beer.
Join me, Mike,
And me, JT.
as we explore the world of crime, conspiracies, or whatever catches our attention. You can find us on social media at Brewcrime or our website, brewcrime.com. And you can find us on any podcast app at Brewcrime Podcast.
Join us as we discuss the horrible crimes that surround us and maybe, definitely tip a bottle or two back as you do it. Drink with us the second and last Tuesday of every month.
Hi, I'm Sean McCabe.
And I'm Carrie McCabe.
We are, married, obviously, but we're also obsessed with the darker side of things.
True crime stories, alien abductions, poltergeists. If it leaves you scratching your head and keeping those lights on at night, we want to hear about it.
That's why we host the podcast, Ain't It Scary, with Sean and Carrie.
Every week, we bring our listeners a true story guaranteed to send chills down your spine. From history's most brutal serial killers to the mystery of spontaneous human combustion.
Yep, lots of these stories leave unanswered questions behind, and you'll get to poke through the rubble of the evidence with a hardened skeptic and
someone whose mind is more open to fun.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
The show really feels like just kicking back with us at home and chatting about monsters and tragedies, but having a few laughs along the way.
Just like we'd be doing if the mics were off, frankly.
You can find Ain't It Scary with Sean and Carrie wherever you get your podcasts, and on social media at Ain't It Scary. Come play with us.
Forever and ever and ever.
I'm Edward October. For more true-ish, and classic tales of horror and the paranormal, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Be sure to ring the bell so you don't miss anything. Or find all of our links at octoberpodvhs.com. Octoberpod, retro horror for bold individualists.